Reflections from Torch Trust, focusing on Christian faith and sight loss.
Hello and welcome to Reflections, the show from Torch Trust that focuses on faith and disability in today's world. I'm Marilyn Baker, and we have a great show lined up for you today. More and more places are starting to offer tactile tours so that blind or partially sighted people can really get a feel for a building or venue. These tours can be such a great way of getting to know somewhere without needing to see it. Well, a few years ago, we asked Kate Risdon if we could record her experience of a tactile tour of the cathedral she attends. Kate was happy to have us on board, so we sent Rachel Dolby along with her to Peterborough Cathedral, and they were shown round by the then Dean, the Very Reverend Charles Taylor. Our first question for Kate was, does she have a sense of the building's awe-inspiring grandeur?
Yes, I do. I think the flooring has quite a bit to do with it, and the size of the entrance and the door, but what I really think is most striking about it is that the soundscape alters immediately you walk in, and there's this sense of large space, and there is quite a lot of sound in general, but actually it's an amazing sense of quiet.
And it smells of church as well, doesn't it?
I think that's Canon Bruce with
Canon
his incense.
Presenter would like that, yes, with his holy smoke on high days and festivals, but even without that, there's something about the woodwork of these places and the stones and the craftsmanship, that the atmosphere, especially as Kate says, when it's quiet, like the vigil overnight on Maundy Thursday or those sort of occasions, when that almost tangibly comes out of the walls, doesn't it? You just feel it as much as either see it or smell it.
Well, I can certainly relate to what Kate's saying about how the sounds and smells help her to build up a picture of the inside of the building. Actually, I find the same myself. I can tell if a building is big, especially a church, because of the echo. I can tell usually, that the ceiling would be high in a place. I can also tell if a room is cosy, it has carpets and a homely feel to it, but I don't really have a visual picture of what the room is like, and I don't mind too much because, of course, I'm not aware of things generally in a visual way, but I am aware of atmospheres. How did the idea of Kate's tactile tour of the cathedral arise?
It kind of arose out of the experience of going round Susan Hare's art exhibition. And I think we simply said, well, have you ever done this around the rest of the building? And Kate said no, so we said, well, let's get on and do it.
And is that something that you could offer to other people who came into the cathedral and needed to find a different way of exploring the building?
I would very much hope so. We've had for many years a tactile model of the cathedral, so the visually impaired can feel the shape of the whole building and the layout of the pillar bases inside and things like that.
And of course the other thing is that if you come to the building, you can get quite a lot out of the building by just sitting in it, although you miss many of the features. But over the years, I think I've got a lot out of the building by simply coming to the various services and concerts, some large, some very, very small. And you do get a sense of not just the physical space of the building, but the sort of fact that it's a working place. And that actually is dependent upon the people.
So, led by the Dean, Kate began her tour of the cathedral.
Under our feet here is some tesserae, paving tesserae, being small bits of mosaic. And if you come down, you can feel how small they are. What are they, about 1/4 of an inch each or something like that? A fingernail in each direction.
Fingertip sized. All different shapes. Very, very closely put together. Difficult to get a fingernail between them, but you can feel the cracks. I suppose they're about an inch, but not absolutely square. Definitely not square. Presumably all different colours.
They're different colours. They're fairly subdued colours, subtle dark greens and reds and rusty colours. And virtually the whole floor, I mean, there's some marble slabs as well, but the whole floor is laid out in that sort of paving in a pattern. It's very delicate, but it is really quite attractive. 2 more steps. Then we're now past the bishop's throne and into the upper end of the presbytery, about to enter the high altar sanctuary. And you've probably been to a Eucharist at the high altar in the week, haven't you? When they've sung on Ash Wednesday or Epiphany. And the brass rail, which again is part of the Victorian restoration. Lots of delicate iron filigree work.
Yes, underneath. Very delicate, sort of miniature railings.
That's right.
Curls and things, yeah.
So that's where people come up. So go up another step and then into the main sanctuary area itself.
Amazing cutting work that got them to fit together so precisely. All done without any sort of
With
electric
one more
tools
step
or anything.
for the moment. And we're before the high altar. There's 4 more steps, but below those are 2, on one on either side, the 2 huge candlesticks. So come and have a get the sense of the size of those. And keep going up and keep going up.
Well above my head.
And there's the drip shield, as it were.
bowl.
It's all silver. And then the candle that is stuck into it, well above our reach there, is probably, about 2 feet long, maybe 2.5.
We'll be hearing more from Kate's tactile tour in just a few minutes. But now it's time for our thought for the week. This week, Ian Lackey has been thinking about being busy.
There is a lot to be said for being busy. When I was but a little lad, I was often told that the devil will find work for idle hands. Doubtless, this was meant as an inducement to do things like study or be involved in some good task which would be for the benefit of others. I'm not sure that the advice ever had the effect intended. There is no doubt that being busy in the right tasks is a good thing. However, there are times when being busy can be a real turn-off for others. There's nothing I find quite so irksome as visiting someone who is so busy that they don't seem to really have time for their guests. Perhaps this was what really got to Jesus when he visited the house of Martha and Mary. Martha gives me the impression that she was like a coiled spring, unable to relax and enjoy the presence of her guests. The activists among us will sympathise with Martha's request to Jesus to tell Mary to help with the work. And I'm sure that in his commendation of the choice Mary made on this occasion, as we see in Luke chapter 10, verses 4 to 41, Jesus is not commending laziness. "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." He is telling Martha that there is a certain business which in the end is only activity for its own sake, even if it is done ostensibly for Jesus. Jesus wants the Marthas among us to first of all enjoy his presence. It is only as we take time to be in his presence that we can do the next thing Jesus really wants us to do, and that is to listen to what he has to say to us. Having listened, we can then go on to do those things which will really please him. In the world of the kingdom of God, it is those who both hear and do the word of God who will be blessed. Martha is an admirable character who I am sure loved Jesus, yet she had to learn what we all in the end have to learn. Listening to Jesus really does come before activity, even if it is ostensibly for his sake. May we learn to desire, above all other things, to listen to Jesus and then to act in his name and for his sake.
Let's return to Peterborough Cathedral now and keep exploring with Kate.
Yes, we're now in a chamber that is known as the sacristy. It's probably, I'll be corrected in a minute if I'm wrong, on part of the site at the end of the old monks' dormitory, actually. And they would have come in over the top and down the night stairs to do their night offices, but they're no longer there, neither the monks nor the stairs. So, but this is used as the vestry, basically, for the cathedral. The vergers have their office and their coffee-making facilities, most important. And then here we have where the clergy robe, and all the vestments and altar frontals and things are kept. And Canon Cattle is just getting the vestments on for taking the communion at 11 o'clock in the middle of today. But we also keep in here a Braille version of our regular hymn book.
They very kindly gave me some shelf space in here because the hymn book is in 8 volumes. And
8 volumes?
8 volumes of hymn book.
In Braille.
Yes.
Wow.
And so it would have been really difficult to have carted it in to and from home every time I came to the cathedral. So,
And Kate, you're a musician, and so being able to join in with the hymns is incredibly important to you, isn't it?
well, it is. I don't think that that's exclusive to musicians, actually. I think that's a necessary and meaningful part of everybody's involvement in church services.
Well, absolutely, because when you stand to sing, you're identifying with those around you. It's the same as if you sing You Never Walk Alone on the football terraces.
Absolutely.
It's part of belonging, and that first hymn is so crucial in binding a congregation. If they don't know it, you've lost it, part of the game. It's also got to set the tone. Is it a feast? Is it a quiet day? Is it Christmas? Is it Easter? Yes, but it is the one, I call it the gathering song.
And music's a very important part of the cathedral as a whole, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There's a cathedral choir.
The choir is now considerably expanded on what it used to be. We have about 24 boys and 24 girls aged 7 to 13.
So, Charles, tell me about the cathedral's organ, because when I came to the choral evensong here, I heard the organ and it was absolutely amazing.
It is a fantastic instrument, the organ here. Basically, it is a 19th century instrument built by the great organ builder, Father Hill, as he was known. And it's been added to and fiddled around with over the years, most recently after the fire here in 2001 when the smoke damage had to be cleaned out of it. The disadvantage with the instrument is it was built at a time when there wasn't a single standard pitch throughout the country, and it's what's known as philharmonic pitch, which is somewhere between a quarter tone and a semitone sharper than standard concert pitch that orchestras and bands and things play at. And that has its difficulties. It has its difficulties in the vocal training of the choristers, because they're learning instruments at one level and coming here. And your voice is a muscle. It's like a muscle memory, like doing up your buttons in the morning. You don't actually have to think about it. It's the same with singing. You shouldn't have to think about it to that extent. And they're having to make a huge muscular adjustment so it's not good for our work of musical education. We can't use it with other instruments for concerts and things. So there is a plan, and we've got permission from all the relevant authorities to do it very carefully, to lower the pitch of the organ. But that's not just a matter of tuning. If you just tuned everything flat, the whole tone would go flat, because that thrilling sound that you heard is all about the relationship between the length of each pipe and its diameter. It's called voicing or scale. So each pipe has got to be lengthened slightly, and there's several thousand pipes to solder a bit on, and then rescale so we don't lose the tone.
I think that good music makes worship, and poor music decimates it. And for me, the quality of the organ and the quality of the playing of it matters hugely in my sort of non-verbal understanding, if you like, of what's going on in the cathedral. In other words, there's something intangible about music that there isn't about pure speech, and that must be right, and it must fit with the service. So for me, the fact that the organ can either be incredibly tranquil at various moments, or can be absolutely thrilling at others and really incredibly exhilarating, is part of the reason why I think I keep coming back. And I'm sure that the puritanical lot would argue that you really shouldn't enjoy going to church that much, but I'm terribly sorry to tell you that I do, and that the organ is a massive part of that. I don't know whether that's just because I happen to be a musician. I don't think it is, because if you sit in the choir stalls and you hear the organ playing, you don't just hear it, you actually feel it. It goes through your chest, it goes through your feet. So it moves the whole air in the building. And that, coupled with really excellent choral singing, which it really is a vital and necessary part of what it is to come to a spiritual service.
Music has always been important to Kate. She's a professional musician and has played the flute in multiple performances at Peterborough Cathedral. Here she is, accompanied on the piano by Fergus Black, playing one of her favourite classical pieces. This is March from Handel's Occasional Oratorio. I'm sorry to say that we're all out of time for this week. I do hope you've enjoyed spending the last half hour with us. If you've got any questions, comments or suggestions, or you'd like to learn more about the work Torch does, then please do get in touch. The number to call is 01858 438 260. That's 01858 438 260, or you can email info@torchtrust.org. We'll be back next week with another uplifting episode of Reflections. But until then, from me, Marilyn, and everyone on the Reflections team, goodbye and God bless.
You've been listening to Reflections from Torch Trust.